Welcome to the Military Millionaire Podcast, where we teach service members, veterans, and their families how to build wealth through personal finance, entrepreneurship, and real estate investing. I'm your host, David Pere, and together with my co-host, Alex Felice, we're here to be your no BS guides along the most important mission you'll ever embark on, your finances.
Vehicle 1, you're clear to depart friendly lines.
Roger, Vic 1, Oscar Mike. What's up, Military Millionaires? I'm your host, David Pere, and I'm here with Alex Felice, who, might as well be hosting this episode if you heard the intro he gave Lucas beforehand. But real quick, just so you get like the actual bio, Lucas is the founder of Landlordology.com, which is a real estate landlord education website. Serves over 5 million people a year. He's also head of industry relations at Cozy, which is used by over 500,000 landlords and nationwide process to over $3 billion in rent annually and a whole bunch of other stuff. He's a speaker, project management professional, experienced landlord, just all around cool dude who one of my favorite memories with Lucas is that I was like in the lobby at like the right time at the right place in FinCon. And him and Seth Williams like just snagged me, and I got to like hang out in DC all evening doing dinner and wandering around. And Lucas showed us around because he used to live there. So just a good dude. So Lucas, this is exciting. Long time coming. I even created a special Facebook group called Peer Pressuring Lucas to join the podcast, and it worked. So thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thanks for having me. I just feel like we go back so many years. So this is an honor to be on your show.
Well, I appreciate it. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your story and how you got started in real estate and all the crazy stuff you got into. This is good.
Yeah, sure. So I wasn't always in real estate. I used to work for the Department of Defense, literally working with rocket scientists to build ballistic missile defense systems. And that was cool, but it just was a regular W-2 job. And I decided to think about real estate. The reason why I decided to think about real estate was that I met this girl. I was 24. I was 23. She was 24. And we happened to see each other maybe once a week or so. And so I just happened to say, hey, how's it going? How's your week been? She's like, oh, it's really good. I bought a house. And at the time I thought that's nuts because we were so young and I couldn't understand how she did it. Well, so she just started diving into it. She said, hey, I bought a house. I went and found a bunch of roommates. They're moving into the rooms and they're paying my mortgage. And like, I'm even grossing or netting like $400. Right. And I just thought, oh my God, this girl is like crazy smart and crazy pretty. I need to get on board with this. So I did the next best thing, next logical thing. And I hired her sister who happened to be a real estate agent. And I just told her sister, hey, can you help me find a house? And I want it to be in her neighborhood and I want it to be as close as possible to her house. So we spent the next, 30 days or so scouring houses in that area where I could do the same thing, where I could house hack it, I could move in and then find a bunch of roommates who would pay my mortgage. And so the house ended up being about 7 blocks from her house. DC has short, small blocks. So it wasn't that far. And sure enough, within like 45 days, I had that house, and another 15 days, I had roommates moved in, and it was great. They were literally paying all of my expenses and then some. And I think I impressed that girl. So we dated for about 3 years, and we've been married for 11.
The story would be a lot creepier if you had not, and it had just ended terribly.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I totally moved into this neighborhood.
If it hadn't awesome. Worked, I totally would have been a stalker, right? Like that is how it comes across. So I like to say that, if diamonds are a girl's best friend, then real estate is a very close second.
I feel like if you didn't have a chance, the sister wouldn't have got you a house that close. She would have kind of
Yeah, probably. Right.
I have 8 homes and no girlfriend. So am I buying the wrong areas or what's the deal?
I don't know, but I continued that path. And so after about a year and a half at that house, it already had $60,000 to $70,000 worth of equity, which is just what happens in Washington, D.C. And then I took the equity out and went and bought like a condo that I could live in, and then eventually convert that to a rental, and just kept doing that. And then that condo was only about 400 square feet. And I actually moved out of that one because my wife now, I thought, hey, we could live there. And she's like, no, man, it's like 400 square feet. There's not even enough room for my shoes. What are you talking about? So we ended up getting a bigger house, and then I've just kept buying real estate with the equity that we have in our properties.
Sounds easy.
No
I
sweat.
just came from DC. I filmed a little series on there for Bigger Pockets. It's the market out there is crazy. It's incredible. It's incredible to see that. How do I say the economics that go on there? I don't know how long ago this was, but what's the average house in DC now? 400 or 500 grand at least.
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, DC is a very small area, right? It's like a predefined area. It's not as big as a state or even a regular sized city. So the prices are pretty high. I know that I would say the average is closer to 600.
Yeah.
And that's like maybe a 2 to 3 bedroom row house.
There's people making money though. Yeah. There's people making money though, house hacking and doing exactly that. I mean, it's crazy.
Yep, for sure. And hey, your videos, I've watched a few of them. They're awesome. Like just totally top quality. So cheers to you.
Why, thank you. I appreciate that. Maybe Alex can get on my level someday. Oh, wait, sorry. We were talking about Alex's videos. Gotta keep your ego on the level playing field. So house hacking in an expensive market, and you were doing it before it was house hacking, before it was trendy, which is
that's right. Before Brandon coined the term, right? I give him a hard time about that.
I love that strategy. I think that's one of the best strategies that you can use for getting started. So
absolutely.
So how did you parlay this real estate experience? You obviously had some tech experience, and then how did the website start? Or which one came first? Were you working at Cozy, or did you start the website first?
Yeah, great question. So after I started buying enough properties, people started coming to me, friends and family. I'm sure it happens to you, where they look at you and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're buying properties, and I see your growth. So how do you do that?" And I kind of got annoyed with the questions, and so I just decided to start blogging my heart out. And I bought the domain Landlordology, started building a simple WordPress blog, and just pouring my stories into it and the lessons I learned along the way. And I didn't really think it was going to do much, but it ended up growing really fast. And then shortly, like maybe about 6 months into it, one of my posts got featured on Lifehacker as a way to like research landlord tenant laws. And I mean, I saw I think I was getting close to like 300 hits a day. And then it went up to 17,000 hits a day from that. So it became pretty popular pretty fast. And then I started making it into like a resource website, right? A ultimate resource where I could earn affiliate income. I could teach people, maybe coach people. It was just really a lot of fun. Well, about 1.5 years into it, Cozy approached me and they said, "Hey, we've been watching you. We love what you're doing. And we wanted to build something similar as our content education platform. And instead of doing that, we just want to talk about maybe acquiring you and acquiring your brand and just making that our platform." And so after negotiations, we agreed to it, and they bought the asset, they bought the collateral, and then they hired me full time to continue to grow this baby of mine and make it into something gigantic, right? And so now I had all this angel investing money that we could do things with, and I had a full-time job doing what I loved and what I was doing, in the middle of the night sometimes. And so I got to continue to run it, and I got to quit my other job, my consulting job with DoD, and just do what I loved. So that's how I got started with Cozy. I was one of their original employees, and then I continued to use my subject matter expertise to grow Cozy and build what I think is the best software out there for independent landlords, and it's free. So that's how I got started with Cozy.
Bro, this is the side hustle dream. Like, let me go off and do this thing that I really want to do, and I don't care if it pays me, I'm going to do it anyway. And then somebody comes along and says, "Hey, we want you to pretty much do exactly what you're doing. We want to put our name on it, kind of, like we want to own the parent company, and then we're going to pay you more."
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I got paid out for it, and then I got a regular job. And then I got that income, and then I also got equity in Cozy. So, base, level equity. So in 2018, when we sold Cozy to apartments.com, I also got paid out again. So I ultimately got to sell this baby website I built, Landlordology, twice over and get paid all the while like building it. So it's pretty sweet.
I don't know that I'd say 17,000 hits a day is quite baby website material. I mean, I don't get that in a month yet. So, and by the way, I like that you hit on my entire content marketing strategy, which is like, oh man, I'm getting sick of answering this question. I'm going to do a YouTube video about it because then I can be like, watch this. Did you watch this?
Exactly. And
it
you
works.
can rank for it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a similar reason why I started my website. Is like, I was doing it and I was like, let me write this out in long form. Otherwise I'm texting people, 1,100 words. Yeah. I'm like, save this and call it a blog.
And the other huge benefit to it is obviously there's a huge benefit we all know to documenting and talking about what we're doing and being able to answer questions. We're getting a lot so that other people can use it. All of that's great. The other piece that I love is if I want to learn a subject, like it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, I wish I knew a little bit more about this. And then just kind of like watch a few videos and be like, oh, okay, cool. I think I have an idea. But it's a whole different story when you're like, I wish I knew a little bit more about this because I'm getting asked about it. So now I'm going to really dive deep on the internet and learn everything I possibly can so that I can write about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a whole nother level. So it's really actually been probably one of the best things I've ever done for my education too. Because instead of just understanding like a quick definition, you have to like understand the whole concept of something, which is really cool.
There's a famous quote, which I don't know who said at the top, on top of my head,
Alex.
But it says that if you really want to understand something, teach it. And I think that's so true because then you have to figure out how to write a 10,000 word article on a topic that you didn't know about. And then by the time you're done, you truly can apply what you've learned. So that's been my approach.
Or at least
there's another famous saying that I'm not sure who said it that says, those who can't do, teach.
I always thought the quote was those who can't do, read. Ooh, says the guy with the book club.
I got a book for you, Lucas.
Yeah, of course.
The question though is, have you read the book or do you just like the cover?
Actually, this book, since we're on the topic, is it coming in?
Oh, geez.
The whole book, huh?
Yeah, literally.
So if you haven't read every line in that book, though, that's
every line. There's nothing in this book. I love this guy. This is the most entrepreneurial guy on. He goes on Amazon. He writes nothing, right? He writes nothing. He sells it for $12, and I bought a copy. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, talk about that. Wow, that's great. I wish I was that smart.
Oh man! All right, so Lucas, how does a rocket scientist guy who transitions into real estate, which Alex and I always say, real estate's so easy. Look at us, we can do it. I don't know that you could really get away with saying that, but the application side, like I'm curious, like how do you get into this technological side of real estate investing? I'm curious kind of how that changed your investing game. Like did getting to see the data and the back end of all that change your strategies or how has that kind of morphed through the years?
Yeah, I mean, when I started out, I wasn't savvy enough to even run the calculations on a single family home. Like the calculators that Bigger Pockets has and elsewhere, like those are fantastic. I wasn't using any of those, right? I was just using rules of thumb that I had heard from realtors and friends who had been doing real estate. And in DC, I'll give you an example. In DC, the rule was that if you wanted a house hack, you had to get a bedroom out of the house that represented $100,000. So if I wanted a $600,000 house, I had to make sure there were 6 bedrooms in there. And that's how I could potentially get enough rental income. So that's all I was doing. Like I was really good at the math for mortgages. I could figure that out very easily. And I caught that on quickly. So at least I was not getting into financial trouble. But it wasn't until like my third property that I was actually looking at cash on cash return, after repair value and those things that I know really did help increase the profit of the rental properties. And, but it's a learning game. You don't have to be savvy with numbers to get started. You really don't, sometimes you just take a leap of faith and it'll probably work out if you do enough talking with your friends and specialists who can kind of guide you.
Woo! We'll be back with the show in just a minute, but I wanted to take a brief second and say that, look, you are already obviously investing in yourself by listening to this podcast. But if you can't figure out how to get past all that daunting crap that you just don't know how to sort through, and you're trying to get started in real estate investing and you're just stuck. I mean, it happens to all of us. It's daunting. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know everything there is to know, and you don't know really where to find all the information. So that is why I created the Real Estate Investing for Beginners 0 to 1 course, which is solely designed to get you from I want to invest in real estate to holy crap, I have a rental and it's cash flowing. And this course is not going to be anything super complicated that you won't be able to understand. It is just designed to teach you how to build a team, find investments, finance investments, conduct due diligence, close on the investment, and then operate it so that you can enter the real estate investing world smoothly. So if that sounds like something that interests you, definitely check out the link below, and it's cheap as hell right now.
Dude, it's amazing in this life. It's amazing how much trying works. Like, try, and you'd be surprised what you can do if you try. Like, I get that, right? Hey, look, you, like you said, you weren't set up for real estate, but it's like, you plug away at it a little bit each day, you get a little better, you get a property, you get better at the next one, blah, blah, blah. And the next thing you know, two guys are like, how did you do this? And you're like, bro, I tried.
Yeah. And I mean, in my first house in DC, when I was 25, I earned more equity in that house in a year and a half than I did my annual salary, right? Like it's not liquid, so I couldn't pull it out necessarily that easy, but I mean, that's just the power of real estate. And once I realized that, I was like, this is gold, right? And so I still have a W-2 job working for CoStar or apartments.com. And I use that W-2 income to provide the backing for mortgage and for them to run my DTI and make sure that I can qualify. But without that W-2, then it would be a lot harder to get these mortgages. And then I just use the rental income to store up, savings and reserves, and just use it to fix property and keep a little nest egg there and kind of keep it separate. So it's one approach. It's not necessarily the best approach for everyone, but eventually I'll probably have enough rental income where I could truly just live off it. And that'd be kind of a fun day, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool realization when people forget, like you mentioned your equity piece, right? And people focus so much on cash flow, which is great, right? Like that's a great move. But like I do my net worth every month as I figure the whole, like you focus on it, it improves. It's really interesting because I always forget to like factor in like appreciation and principal when I'm doing my math on like cash flow and stuff in my head. But then when I put it out on paper, I'm always like, oh yeah. So like you said, it's not liquid. You can't touch it. It's not a guarantee or whatever, but it's a pretty powerful piece of real estate that people seem to neglect a lot when they talk about real estate. So.
Right. I mean, you can't assume you're going to produce equity, but generally speaking, it is real. Like it's a real thing. And so, it definitely affects your net worth and opens up doors for you. You can pull out HELOCs and then you can use that money to go buy other things. It's a thing that I don't think enough people leverage. Do either one of you have short-term rentals, Airbnbs and such?
Alex loves them, but I am doing it out of my, I've got a bedroom in the house that I'm currently in that I Airbnb. That's about the extent.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. Alex, do you?
I don't, I want to change some of mine to Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
But I haven't screwed with it. And like, I don't want to be in the hospitality business.
Right.
I want to be in the hands-off investor, passive investor business. And so that's my only hesitation, is that I have to go do it. My property manager does everything now. So if I go to Airbnb, he's not going to do that. So my apprehension has been like, I don't want to go ahead and give myself a job for some more money. I'd rather do some, I don't know.
I'll tell you, Airbnbs and nightly rentals are one of the most labor intensive projects. And so, I wouldn't even do it either, but I do have one vacation rental in Vail, Colorado that I was very intentional about buying that because it was a huge short-term rental market. And so there was just a plethora of short-term rental managers who will take it on for you, and you just build that into the cost, and then you don't have to worry about it. Like it's truly hands-off because it can be a pain if you have to deal with nightly check-ins or like getting extra towels for somebody at midnight. That's just not fun. But when I was looking for a place, I had looked at a bunch of cities, especially ski towns like Park City, Vail, Beaver Creek, up, a couple of places like Jackson Hole. And I just, I was frustrated because I couldn't find something that was going to cover itself. And then I found a pretty good deal comparatively in Vail, and we moved on it. And the numbers worked out in such a way that if I could rent it for 100 days out of the year, sometimes 120 days out of the year, then it'll pay for itself, right? And that wasn't that hard to do. I mean, sometimes we don't get 120, but for the most part, we do. And then it pays for the mortgage, it pays for the all the repairs and expenses. And short-term rental managers don't charge 10% like typical property managers. They're usually 30 to 50% of your income. They'll take right out of the bat. And that's not cool, but that's just the way it is. And so this guy charges about 30%. They have a whole system in place for cleaners and everything, and they'll take online bookings, which is great. So if I rent it for 120 days a year, then it pays for all of that, and we break even, and maybe we'll make a little bit of money. But the real benefit is the other, 200 days a year, like we get to go use a condo in Vail, right? Whether it's winter season or summer season. So I think a lot of times people don't realize Airbnbs, if you buy something in a desirable location that you and your family would love to have anyway, then it can also be a vacation home for you. Yeah. And you can still get it covered. Like you can go on a trip and have it paid for because it's raking in rental income the rest of the year. So
it's a
that's a fun
timeshare
topic. Exactly. And somebody else is cleaning it for you. Like it's just kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I'll have to
I love this idea. I'd love to own one in Vegas because I love going back to Vegas all the time. But I got to practice. I have the properties here. I should probably just turn one over, get a manager, like you said. I think Shelby only pays 20%.
That's great.
Or I might call, I might try to see if I can get Julian to do it. The problem is I have a super good relationship with my property manager, and it's like, he's my partner. And it's like, I really don't, he takes such good care of me. I don't want to take any money out of his pocket to make a little more. I don't know. I gotta break that.
Just talk to him because he might not even want to do short-term rentals. Right?
He doesn't. He doesn't want to.
Yeah. So no problem.
Well, but I'm gonna be taking $90 a month out of his pocket.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So just give him $90 a month.
Okay.
Mr. Moneybags.
And then now everybody wins.
There you go.
Yeah.
What you do is you just go find some business for your property manager. You're like, hey, I got you this referral, and oops, okay, we'll break even.
Bro, I give him so much business.
Exactly.
I send people so much business.
So he'll be cool.
He went from 40 properties when I met him to 350 now.
I think one of those is probably worth $90.
Holy moly.
Yeah, I'm good.
All bro. Alex.
I'm good. Yeah, all me.
I mean, he should be paying you like a monthly stipend, right? He should be like buying your groceries.
We work very well together.
Oh man, that's awesome. All right, so question for you. Sure. I don't know if this is really a direct question. This is how Alex asks questions sometimes, so I'm going to roll with it.
Can't be me.
Speak to me about tenant screening.
Tenant screening. All right. So I've only written about 120 articles about this on Landlordology.
Can you just sum them all up right now? Or do we
sum them all up?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, actually I can. Sum everything up that you need to know about tenant screening is that if you pick the right tenants and you do a good job screening, you generally speaking won't have very many problems on the back end. Like the people you always hear about, having tenant issues, it's generally because they didn't do a good enough job at screening. I generally look for somebody who, here are my 2 rules at the highest level. Sum it all up. Oops, sorry. I look for people who have the ability to pay and then have a willingness to pay, right? Because it's hard to get both. Sometimes you get people who don't make enough, but they're like the most genuine people. And then sometimes you get people who make more than enough, but they also have a chip on their shoulder. And those are the types of people that will quickly jump to saying, hey, I heard there was like this eviction moratorium, so I'm just not going to pay rent because I've got a chip on my shoulder. And it just, I'd rather go on vacation, right? Because you can't catch me. And those types of people are even worse because then, you'll have all kinds of problems. So there's a bunch of stuff involved in that, but generally speaking, that's what I look for at first. Then, I tend to go into credit reports and background checks and income of, 2 to 3 times the monthly rent amount. I look for people who have never had a criminal record, or I shouldn't say that. Criminal record is fine. If they have a violent criminal history, that's a deal breaker, because I'm going to be the one walking up to their door eventually, and I don't want them to get angry. I look for people who have never had an eviction ever. And when I say that, I don't mean that they got kicked out of their place. I mean that they actually went to court and they actually said, I feel like I shouldn't have to pay, or you can't kick me out. And the judge ruled against them and actually put it on their record. So those types of people are just horrible renters, generally speaking, because they feel like they're owed something. And then I spend the time to do verification, call the last 2 landlords. Like, you never really want to call the existing landlord because the person hasn't moved out yet. So you never quite know if they're going to leave a balance on the account or if they're going to trash the place before they leave. I like to call the one prior to that and say, ask them simple questions. But then ultimately the last question I ask is, would you rent to them again? And that is a nice summary of their opinion of this person. Call or verify their income through pay stubs, or if you have to, bank statements and tax returns. I know that's a little far-fetched, but you'd be surprised what people will Photoshop. And in fact, they teach Photoshop in middle school. So, like a 15-year-old can probably make up a pay stub that will blow your mind. So you always have to verify. There you go. Tenant screening in 3 minutes.
That was
I work in
actually
special
really
assets and banking. So, I work. So, yeah, I've seen use. Yeah, like you said.
I was just going to say I was a recruiter.
Hey, let me ask you though. Let me ask you this though. What about before you get to a tenant, buying the right property, right? So a lot of people nowadays, out of state investing is popular, and somebody will do this little deal where they go off the internet and they search for a place that they've never been to, and they find a deal through a wholesaler, maybe even an MLS, and the numbers look really good, but they've never been there. And so they buy this place, and then they find out that no tenant that you just described will rent that place.
Yep. Right.
You
have to buy something that you'd want somebody, it's kind of like dating. Like, you have to be the person that would attract the type of person that you're looking for. Right. And the same with renters. You have to buy the house that would attract the good renters. So I'm sorry, I cut you off. What's your question?
No, well, that I really like that you said that, actually, because I think it's a fantastic point. But also, let's say for the person who has already made the mistake and bought, I say the C minus class, because nobody's ever bought a D class property. The C minus class property in out of state. I had a girl call me a few months ago, and she's like, "Hey, about this place," and the property manager of the day one, some gangster walked across the street and showed her a gun and said, "That's their turf. Don't come back." And she won't go back. And so now the girl's sitting there with a house that she can't get anybody to go manage. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, but the numbers on paper were so good. And so, so maybe not that bad, right? But somewhere where you're like, okay, I bought this place and it's hobbling along. Can you speak to, like, look, I can't get the best tenant. How do I mitigate this disaster that I've got myself into?
How do you mitigate? So yeah, if you buy a lemon, you can just make your property the best it can be. So, you can't control your neighborhood necessarily. So if you've already bought it and you're stuck to it, you just fix up your property as best you can. Like, be that shining star in that neighborhood, right? Because people will generally respect that. Even the people who will show a gun to somebody walking down the street, right? Like, they have some sense of decency and will generally try to respect if you're trying to make something better, right? That's their neighborhood too. That's not always the case, but that's what I found. I have 2 properties on Capitol Hill in DC, and some parts of Capitol Hill are really awesome, and some parts of it, like, you don't want to go out at night. And so one of the houses was in that area for about 4 years until it kind of turned over. And it's rough, you got to find tenants who are willing to take a risk. The thing that I actually think with, I rent to a lot of young tenants kind of right out of college, and if you have kind of a rough area, sometimes it's okay to turn it into kind of a group house. I mean, they're all on one lease, but you typically can convince a group of guys who are younger without kids, right? And who want to live together. And there's kind of power in that community, right? If you have 4 kind of football player-esque guys living in a house, they're not going to really care, what's going on next door. Whereas, it might not be so true for a group of girls. They might not feel as safe, right? Because they might be smaller or whatever. I'm not trying to be sexist. I'm just saying that in the rougher part of the area, I certainly had more showings to groups of guys than I did to families or groups of girls. And that's a way to kind of cater to it. So I think in that situation, you obviously can't discriminate on sex or anything, but you might have more luck catering to younger groups of men until that neighborhood turns over and fix it up and make them proud to live there,
So man cave in the garage.
Man cave in the garage. I like that.
Gosh.
I'm not
listen to me talk.
I just know who's going to come rent this house.
So it might not be the best solution, but that might be the audience that might be comfortable living there. And again, I'm not trying to be sexist. I'm just,
it was a tough question because there is no good solution. The good solution is like I've made this mistake. I can't speak for everybody, but don't buy the property that looks good on paper that doesn't run good. Because like you said earlier, it's like the tenant screening is important because if you have the good tenant in there, things go well. If you get the lousy tenant in there, it's like, ugh. Yeah. And so this is kind of what I was also thinking was, would you speak to the difference between the people who, the first mistake I made with my first rental was I needed to get it placed immediately.
Oh.
It's empty. I need to get some warm body in there. And I learned along the way, it's like, that's the wrong answer. You need to get the right person in there, even if it takes a little bit longer.
Right. If you could also, if that was a scenario too, where you're kind of bleeding money at first, like maybe you could get a short-term lease, maybe like really get like a 3-month lease or a month-to-month with a really good tenant. Like maybe, I don't know, get somebody that you think you actually could terminate when the time comes for you to sign a longer lease or to do repairs. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that you put somebody in right away. It just limits your options.
Yeah. Yeah. I won't do that again.
Yeah. I think with housing, especially when long distance rentals are becoming more and more popular, not viewing or going to a house, like I've seen people buy it sight unseen, or at least, they've seen the digital photos, but that's it. It's like, why would you marry someone if you've never been on a date with them? Right. And that's kind of what you're doing when you're investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a house that you've never actually gone to. And I think if you can, if it's allowed, try to spend the night there. I mean, even if it's unfurnished, go get your sleeping bag and or a cot or something and literally use the shower, get it, obviously meet inspectors while you're there and get it fully checked out, but just live in it, because that's what your tenants are going to experience. And so, a chef would never give out food before tasting it. So I kind of feel like that's the same thing you're doing. And if you feel comfortable there, and you'd get to see what happens at 11 o'clock at night or 2 a.m. If you hear gunshots, then your tenants are going to hear those too. Whereas you wouldn't quite notice that until if you went at a 4 o'clock showing and you were out by 4:15. So try before you buy, for sure.
Yeah, if you're looking to buy a property in an out-of-state area, people tell me all the time, well, I've bought property sight unseen, but I know the market.
Sure.
I know the market. So people, they buy houses in areas that they haven't seen the house, but they've never even been to the area. Exactly. And I'm like, bro,
I think that's a huge
mistake. $500. You can't spend $500, fly out there and at least shake the property manager's hand so he knows who you are and see the area. And anyway.
Right. Well, this is it's a relationship business. So, I mean, if you are hiring a property manager and he doesn't know you or feel loyal to you because you've never taken the time to meet him, I mean, he is not going to go to bat for you at all.
Yeah. Well, and if you build that team and like Alex said, the market, right? If the lady will send the papers back today, I'm going under contract, hopefully today, on 4 houses that I've never been inside. I've never seen. I may never see the inside of. I don't know. But my property manager met her at and walked through 3 of them today and is going through the 4th one tomorrow before I sign. So A, I know where the houses are. B, my property manager's walked through and said, yeah, I'll manage this.
Right.
Except she did say that Sanford from Sanford and Sons lives in one of them. So I guess he probably won't be leaving anytime soon since he's got like an entire museum in the house. But, whatever. House was as clean as a hoarder.
That's great.
Be.
Oh, gosh. Cross that bridge when you get there, I guess.
Yeah, hey, I'm getting a lot of equity in the deal, so it's whatever.
Sure.
But
I think that that's a great point that like, if you want to invest out of state and you don't know the area, probably the best thing to do is to spend your time investing in getting to know property managers with good reviews, and then having long conversations with them and basically ask, I'm not really sure where I want to invest, in this town, but where would you feel comfortable moving your family to? Right. And they might be able to give you little sub neighborhoods that they say, well, this is really good. This is where I'd feel comfortable. And because it's got a good school and it's quiet or whatever, and use that, heck man, make that list. And then that's your list of where you invest. And that's where you highlight and do the research. Plus you'd probably feel comfortable, using him as a property manager, and he would feel comfortable taking that house because he's already said it's a great area. So that's one way to do it.
I agree. All right. So, I should have asked this question way earlier, but we didn't even touch on, because we just assume everyone knows. Can you give a brief overview of what Cozy is and does? I know I don't know that we actually mentioned that. And I hate to assume that there might be someone who doesn't know what it is, but there might be.
It's Cozy's online property management software. So it's all online. You don't have to download anything, and it's completely free. With it, you can list your property for rent or your unit. You can collect online applications. You can get full credit reports and detailed background checks and credit scores, and then collect rent online. They can pay by, renters can pay by credit card or by ACH transaction, which is just bank-to-bank transaction. Then you can track your expenses and your maintenance requests, and all of that is completely free for you as a landlord. So we make our money on charging for the credit reports and background checks from the tenant. They essentially pay about $40 when they apply, and then they get a copy of those reports too. So they see what you see, and they have something they can take with them for their money, which is not always the case. And it just simply works. Cozy processes about $3 billion. I think it's $3.5 billion in rent, and it's used by hundreds of thousands of people. So that's what Cozy is. That's what I helped build from the beginning. And then in 2018, we sold Cozy to apartments.com because they essentially wanted to do the same thing. And instead of building it, they just acquired Cozy. And we are in the midst of rebuilding and improving on Cozy's framework behind the apartments.com brand. So you'll actually get, and even today, you can sign up today. You get other things that Cozy never did, like state-specific leases that you can digitally sign online. So we actually paid millions of dollars to hire lawyers in every jurisdiction, not just a state, but every legal jurisdiction, to make sure that the lease would work according to those local laws. And so you get something that is going to work, and then you can get it signed online from everybody through our DocuSign integration. And that is also free. The whole freaking thing is free. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. That's awesome. And the fact that you, like the jurisdiction piece, look at that. I used a big word. That's cool. I get asked those kinds of questions all the time, right? So now I can send people over to apartments.com and say, hey, like, this is better than what I have. Please don't do that.
Exactly.
You weren't sending them over to him before? I thought Lucas, I thought you guys were friends.
Apparently not.
I seem to recall him just saying that was a new feature.
Yes, it is new.
So no, I'm sorry. I wasn't sending him people that weren't going to be able to, that were just going to bug him. Dave said you could do this thing that you don't offer yet.
Fun to bug Lucas.
Trying to set me up for failure.
So now what do you do? Now you just, I said in the intro, I was like, now you just slum it around.
He lays on the floor.
And sell Cozy Co.
So I work, my employer is apartments.com, and I'm actually a product manager for what's their version of Cozy. So I'm actually it's really fun. Actually, I get to take all the lessons learned we learned with Cozy and then apply them so that what we're building at apartments is like version 2.0. And where, you might not know this in tech, when you build something, some of the code gets out of date within a few years. Like, and that framework that you might build software on is now kind of old news, right? And there's better ways to do it. So when you start to have hundreds of thousands of customers, it's not so easy to kind of just like redo the framework. So software kind of goes out of date for a while. And while Cozy still worked very well, we're now building something that's faster and cheaper. Like even on apartments, the ACH transactions are just happening within 1 to 2 days versus 5 days with Cozy. So you get your money faster, and that's still free, which is pretty amazing. So, we're getting a chance to fix the things that we never could fix at Cozy.
That's really awesome. What are you most excited about with it?
I'm excited because apartments.com gets over 30 million hits a month, and all of that traffic can get funneled into this tool. So this thing that I'm using, since there's no price barrier for entry, and it actually lets you manage your rental properties effectively. Like, for example, like I said, I've got a total of 3 properties in the Washington, D.C. area, and I manage all of them by myself from Colorado. And I rarely have any issues. I mean, even maintenance requests get submitted to this thing. So, super easy. It's empowering. It gives me the strength to grow my portfolio, and it doesn't cost me a dime. So that idea of having that power and giving it to 30 million visitors a month, like that power and that gift, right, can actually help create financial legacies for millions of families, right? They're going to have something to pass on to their kids because they have the right tools to grow financially. So that's what kind of wakes me up and gets me going in the morning, is knowing that, I can change the world, or at least I can change the United States and make legacies for families.
I feel like a schmuck.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Makes me feel bad about myself, Lucas. Appreciate that.
And Lucas's why is better than all of ours. No, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Thanks.
Man. So you've come a long way from, buying a house to live next to a girl.
Yeah. The why has you definitely got some bigger goals. How long did this take? How long has this all taken? When did you buy the first house?
First house was 2005.
Okay.
Well,
hang on a second. Okay, the 2. Oh yeah. Okay. Got you.
So then Landlordology was built in 2012, sold to Cozy in 2014, and we sold Cozy to apartments in 2018.
What's 2-year turnaround on the blog. That's pretty cool.
What's up with CoStar?
Yeah, CoStar is the parent company that owns apartments and Cozy and a handful of other brands. They are primarily a commercial data company. So they're like the MLS for commercial real estate. They're a private company. They're not, like a franchise like the MLS is, but they have all the data. So if you buy commercial properties, which are, any property for business or any property that's got 5 units or more, you're probably going to see the listing on CoStar. Now, it's not free. It's a subscription, and the price varies based on where you live, but it can be expensive. I mean, when people ask, I like to say it's usually a car payment, right, every month. But if it gets you a 100-unit apartment building and $10,000 a month in net revenue, then certainly worth it. Right.
Yeah, I was just curious. I knew that was part of it. I didn't want to,
of course,
have the I can be nosy. So that's why I started the show and gave it to my co-host.
Yeah. That's exactly. Well, thank you, Alex. I mean, you were one of the first guests.
I was.
Yeah. Well, because I deleted the
first
first episode or two. So now you're left as one of the first 2. Anyway, and then we had to, like 2 years later and a little bit of heckling, we got Lucas. So look how far we've come.
Yeah. Peer pressure works.
Well, I'll say this. You guys are some of my favorite people to hang out with at conferences. It's just a lot of fun.
That sounded like a really lousy compliment. I'm just saying.
What?
You guys are my favorite people that I see once or twice a year.
Yeah.
You know, with a lot of alcohol.
I don't like you enough to see other times. Yeah. No, we're just all in the same circles. It's fun. It's just a lot of fun. So.
Yeah. How are you taking the everything's canceled?
Yeah, I know that sucks. It really does. And I don't have any events lined up to go to or speak at, even through 2021. I mean, no one's taking on that risk of actually scheduling a conference. Just not happening.
I'm bummed. FinCon was in my backyard. I was going to get to just drive.
Oh yeah.
Once. Like my first FinCon was in Orlando and I was in Hawaii. So my first leap of faith was like a $2,000 round trip and whatever.
I remember that.
I'm so excited. I'm like, yeah, Long Beach, right around the corner. I'm going to drive up there. It's going to be great. It's going to cost me nothing. No.
Yeah.
Just not going to happen. Can't get away with that. And I don't think they're ever going to come to Missouri when I move back there. So.
Oh man. When you
Nobody
back
does. About 8 months. 8 months to a year.
Pretty soon.
So yeah, not too long.
Yeah.
So. All right, Lucas, I got a few questions I always ask everybody on the show.
Sure. Fire away.
The first one is, if a 18 to 19-year-old was to walk up to you asking you for advice, and usually that's real estate advice, but life, whatever Lucas's words of wisdom are today, what would be the one thing that you feel like they need to know?
One thing. There's a lot of one things, but the one that comes to mind is you are what you eat. And I don't mean food. So whatever you consume and whatever you put in front of your eyes, whatever you try to take in is going to define who you are. And, if you're spending the time playing video games all day long, like you're just going to be a gamer and you're not going to have any opportunity to build wealth or to build a platform for yourself. But if you consume books that help you understand finances and understand real estate or whatever you're interested in, I mean, if you want to start a zoo, like read some books on that or connect with whoever does that. So whatever you consume is what you're going to be.
Bro, I love this.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm an avid reader. If anybody wants to get on my book list and try to keep up with me, you can't, but it'd be fun to watch you try. But I love this advice, right? Like, I tell David, I was telling Neil the other day, I tell this to people a lot of times, like, you can consume content or you can produce content. And it kind of goes along with that. It's like, if you want to produce content, that means you need to be consuming high quality content. You can't consume video games and then spit out something smart. It doesn't work that way. You can't watch nonsense on Netflix and then have anything good, valuable insight to give the rest of the world. So consume high quality content and then you can maybe help the next person.
Yeah. And Alex's book club is solid. There's some good recommendations in there, some great books, but I will also say that you might be a better reader than you will believe after hanging around some of the titles that he throws around. Some of that stuff, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. And Alex reads books that I'm like, oh, this is an awesome book, but I could not read the title out loud. Like, it took me a long time to practice that, and I'm pretty sure I messed it up. So I'm just
you said it right. You said it right. Zarathustra. And that's 1886, Friedrich Nietzsche, and it's amazing. And everybody should read it, but they won't. So that's why, anyway.
Alex reads books just to be like, yeah, you didn't have the fortitude to read this one, so I'm better than you.
Anyways, I don't mean to steal your thunder. Lucas, I love that. You are what you eat.
Awesome.
I love that.
That's probably the best way I've ever heard that summarized, so we appreciate it. All right. The next question is, what resource would you recommend? Whether it's book, course, website, whatever, for anyone looking to get started in real estate today?
Ooh, I'll tell you this, and he doesn't know I'm saying this, but I've been super impressed with Chad Carson's Real Estate Start School. He this is not a plug, but like ironically, he's got I think open enrollment right now, but he just lays it out in the way that like a sixth grader could understand, and I think that's truly how you learn, right? You grab these basic concepts, and then his outline course. I mean, he starts there, but he really gets into the details and really wants you to buy your first property. So he's one of the greatest guys I know, and truly has like the heart of a teacher. And so I've just been super impressed with the quality of it. And I can't say that for all the real estate courses, or even a small portion of the real estate courses. So if you're just getting started, that's a good one to check out, or at least have an intro conversation with him.
Not only is Chad and let's see, Alex looked like he had something.
Have we had Chad on this show yet?
No, he's in the works.
I'm just, seems
Yeah,
like a
no,
good
he's-
segue. That's all.
Yeah, no, Chad's awesome. In fact, I was going to say, not only is Chad an awesome person who I definitely enjoy talking to and would recommend. He did something to me that is kind of like what happened to you with whatever company picked up your Landlordology blog. Not that it was nearly 17,000 views a day, but Chad was probably one of the first like legitimate backlinks I ever got of someone saying, "Hey, check out this website if you're military," and it was a noticeable traffic bump. And I just never forget that because I was like new to the blogging world, and it was like I was like, where is this traffic coming from? And I go through Google and I'm like, oh, holy smokes, hey, thanks, dude. He's like, oh yeah, cool. So he's just a cool guy. I like Chad.
Yeah. And he's living it too. Like he's buying real estate and he's living off of his investments, and he and his family can travel the globe, most of the year, at least when his kids don't have to deal with school, right? And his rental properties pay for all that. So that's eventually, I think, where most real estate investors want to get to.
One of the only real estate educators I know who will tell you that his biggest mistake was buying too many houses and needing to slow down. So
For sure.
Anyway, so good recommendation. I like that. And yes, Alex, we'll have to talk to Chad as well about getting him on the show. But Lucas, where can people get a hold of you other than like Cozy or Apartments, or where they're gonna have to fight through the corporate veil?
Right.
Now.
I'm kind of old school. I'm still mostly on Facebook.
So MySpace.
Oh geez, no way. I've got a pager. You can just page me and that'll be cool. So no, just friend me on Facebook. And then I've got, you can find me on Landlordology too, but Facebook's a little more personal.
Indeed.
You have a great profile picture.
Oh yeah, you took it. I've had that for almost a year because I can't part with it.
Yeah. Oh, hey, that's the one that was one of the ones you threw out here as a potential for the podcast art.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to have to use that one, I guess, just for Alex. It's a good photo.
Yeah, Alex is a great photographer.
You know why it's a good photo?
Why?
Because you had no idea it was happening, which is why Alex gets all these crazy shots, and you're like, oh, wow, I look normal when I don't know there's a camera in front of me. But the moment the camera, exactly. The camera's there, whole different story.
You want to know?
I'm like a handsome ninja.
Handsome ninja.
Yes, Alex,
the little secret.
Perfectly.
If you ever want to tell if somebody is fake smiling, look at their eyes. Look at the sides of their eyes. If there's a lot of wrinkles there or like crevices, and then it generally is a fake smile. If it's generally relaxed around their eyes, then it's a genuine smile. It's just how the face works and its muscles. So
going off that, you might have liked who you were talking to.
Nah, I'm just getting old.
Oh man, Lucas, thank you so much for joining us today. I am glad that we finally got to do this. This has been just awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so fun to hang out with you guys.
Yeah, maybe next year we'll get to do it like in person.
Sure, absolutely.
Hope so. Fingers crossed. Thank you for listening to another episode about my journey from military to millionaire. If you liked it, be sure to visit FromMilitaryToMillionaire.com/podcast to subscribe to future podcasts. While you're there, we'd love for you to rate the show, give us a review on iTunes. Now get out there and take action.